Amanda. I'm the chair of the design review panel. Before we get into the meeting, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do. First off, first order of business is to review the minutes from our prior meeting, which was the meeting of September 8th. The meeting minutes have been distributed to the panel. Are there any questions or comments? If not, can we have a motion to approve?
John, this is Fran. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay. We have a second. Roger, Julie.
This is Julie. I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
with that.
It's Roger. Aye.
Okay, thanks, Raj. With that, the minutes from the September 8th meeting has been approved. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Before we start, I have an opening statement. Baltimore County Council in Title IV, Subtitle 2, 32-4, 203 and 4 established the design review panel. The RP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objectives of the DRP assessment include spatial, visual, functional relationships to the site. And in carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles from the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and Master Plans, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. During the public input portion of this meeting, we will use the chat feature if there's anyone outside of the committee or the presentation team making a presentation. If during the public comment period, there is a time limitation. If you're speaking on behalf of a community group, you get 5 minutes. As an individual, 2 minutes. At the end of this meeting, the design review panel will make comments and recommendations and will vote. The plan will either be approved with conditions, or additional review and a second meeting will be required. With that, I would like to turn it over to our presenter. The project tonight is a residential project at 8315 Bologna Avenue, which is a residential review. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the design team or the owner to make this presentation.
Thank you, John. Should we get started at this point?
It's all you. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present the proposal to the team here. We are looking to create a single-family residential home in the Ruxton area community. A very nice green home, I would say, about 5,500 square feet ballpark, on the that is part of the Ridge School subdivision property. So let's go to the next slide, please. So on the agenda, what we did is basically we took the checklist provided by the county, and we just put those as the agenda items. We will talk through each one of them, hopefully to lay out the plan and the vision that we have, and hopefully the community here would agree that we have done everything that we could to satisfy all these requirements. Go to the next slide, please. This is the continuation of the handbook. Thank you. The project summary, we are looking to build about 5,500 square feet, between 5,000 and 5,500 square feet, single family home. The address is on 8315 Bologna Avenue. It's part of the Ridge School subdivision property that was created, I think, in 2002. The lots are kind of very secluded private lots. It's really covered by or surrounded by forests on basically all sides other than the road facing Bologna Avenue. We are looking to build a very energy efficient green home using the latest building technologies like the ICF, the geothermal, the solar, to try and make sure that our environmental footprint is as low as possible, due to the home. And this is a very steep lot, and all thanks to Greg that we have had to design this home to kind of fit the lot. This was not a typical home design that we can just create on a flat lot. So Greg had to work a lot with the terrain to make this possible. So thanks a lot to Greg for making this happen. And we are looking to use all these premium architectural finishes that helps complement the area construction homes, the area homes in the neighborhood, as well as the environment, because this is a very beautiful area, and we want to make sure that we are complementing the area in there. Next slide, please. So these were over here. We see the red highlighted box. The red box is the proposed lot that we are planning to build on. That's the 8315 lot. As you can see, it is really surrounded by the forests on all sides, and on the back side, on the circle, on the Ridge School circle, we have some really nice homes that are about 5,500, 5,000 square feet plus homes. If we are looking at this image, to the left of this image, the 8305 and 8315, the two properties are separated by a pretty significant forest buffer, to the point where you cannot even quite see the house. To the front of the house, we have there's a business park up to the front of the house, and kind of to the northwest, we have this residential community pool and the tennis courts. And we'll see more details of this picture in the next few slides. This is the zoning map. The property is zoned, I think, DR2 as displayed by the county zoning map. And thank you to Brett for providing these maps to me. Okay. So this is an interesting picture because the site was very dense. What I did is I stood at where you see that orange camera. That's where I stood, and each of these pictures are in the direction that I have pointed the arrows. So if I look at northwest, I am seeing those tennis courts. If I look down Bologna Avenue, that is the shot on your left. If I look kind of diagonally towards the Nelson property, my neighbor's property, you're seeing the kind of the forest cover on the diagonal corner of the property. If you look in the center bottom picture, that is the front facing of the property. It's very heavily forested. It's very heavily covered by vegetation. Kind of continuing that panoramic shot view, the bottom right picture is looking at it diagonally from towards the east corner of the property. And then eventually to the right, we have the shot down towards Charles Street, and ultimately ending it northeast looking view into the business park area. So we try to give you the panoramic view standing on the opposite corner facing the lot that we are talking about here. So as you can see, it's pretty heavily forested. That's basically what I was trying to get to. Here's the proposed site plan for the property. As you can see, the grades are pretty significant because of the steep hill. So we have had to work very significantly with the grade and kind of design the house around the grade rather than the opposite, where we can design the house and then fit it on the lot. We have actually had to first think about how the site would work and then design the house towards that site. So we are looking at the driveway, and this overall plan is very much in line with what was approved by the original development plan when the subdivision was created. This driveway location is pretty much identical to that proposed development plan, including the retaining walls on the property. For the most part, we are pretty much holding the approved development plan that was submitted and approved by the county during the subdivision process. One more thing. We are holding all our boundaries, in the building restriction lines. So we are not violating any of those. So there's no variances on the setbacks or anything of that sort. Next slide. Thank you. Here's a proposed landscape plan. Obviously, this site would have some landscape, because we are looking to build a beautiful home there. We want to complement that with appropriate landscape. So we work with Devin Larry. He is a very well-known landscape architect to come up with this landscape plan for us. And as you can see, we are kind of, again, leveraging the slope of the land and putting some nice native trees up on the front side to have a very nice frontage along Bologna Avenue. And one more thing to be called out is we have called out that a certified arborist needs to be present when the contractor or the builder is taking down the trees on the lots to maintain the safety of the crew and make sure that the trees are handled with utmost care, and proper procedures are taken to make sure that whatever is left behind is left behind in a healthy condition. We don't want to disturb the surrounding vegetations. So that's the note. It's not quite clear on this image, but that's the note on the top, right where you see Bologna Avenue. That note is talking about that certified arborist being present during the lot clearing process. Next slide, please. Photo montage. So for this, what we did is I actually went up. I climbed up on the hill to try and provide photo shots up from all the different angles while standing on the property. So this is the picture when that orange camera. That's approximately. This is a little bit of guesswork here, but that orange camera is where approximately I was standing, taking a look towards my neighbor's lot, and you can see it's barely even visible. I don't think I could even see the house. The fact that I knew that the house was there, that's the only reason why I could figure out that there's something back behind this vegetation, behind that forest conservation area. Next slide, please. Continuing on, the same spot, looking south towards the back of the lot. As you can see, just because I know that the retaining walls exist in the back on the corner over here, that's why we can see them. But again, nothing really is quite visible on these. These are very secluded lots. Going on the east side, it's just forest. There's really no construction. There's nothing on the east side, so it's all just forest, as you can see here. Then what we did is I actually came back down towards the road, and this is approximately where the house front driveway corner would be, or the parking pad would be. And I took a shot of from that point to the road facing north. And as you can see, the road is barely visible. It's kind of hard to see through the brush and the forests, but it is partially visible, as you can see from the shot here. Now, this is there was a requirement to provide surrounding structures, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot surrounding the lot. So what I did is I drove around the Ridge School development. These are nice looking homes, 5,000 plus square feet homes on the south side of the circle, south side on the circle, and then on the north side we have this big business park So that's the shot that you have on the top center, and then all of these arrows actually point. Actually, one of the houses is under construction in that circle. So I just took a shot of the front of that house. But these shots that I have provided basically kind of show the lots that these houses are situated on. Very nice looking homes, a beautiful community over there. So as I mentioned, this is kind of a fairly unique house plan because we have had to work with such grades. So this is the front of the house. We are looking at the garage in the bottom, and the garage is kind of coming out in the front, and it's a 3-car garage home. The main floor is we have provided the kind of the elevations. The basement elevation is at 410. Front elevation would be 427, and the second floor elevation would be 440. This is kind of to give you an idea of what this house would look like sitting on the hill. So as you can see, there's a significant hill. So we are kind of playing with the land here and making this house work because of that slope. So the garage is really all above ground, and the grade of the land is such that garage is pretty much all above ground, but the basement is all underground. And then the house kind of, because using the garage walls and the basement, we are able to kind of bring the house above ground basically. There should be another shot that would. This is the right side of the elevation. Again, you can kind of see the grade dropping pretty significantly between the back of the house and the front of the house, to the point where the garage is pretty much all above ground, or all outside the ground, and the basement is really just allowing us to come up above the ground. So this is the last side. So you can see this is the current grade. This dotted line on the diagonal dotted line running through the screen is the current grade, and you can kind of see how the house is lining up. So we have had to kind of play with the grade to make sure that we have the proper alignment for this home, in given the natural terrain of the hill of the lot. So we are cutting into the hill to create the basement, and using the basement back wall as a kind of a foundational wall to hold back the hill over there. And then we have the garage and the parking pad, and those are pretty much above ground. As you can see, it's partially above ground, partially in ground there. And then the first floor is also being cut into the ground a little bit, because that's just the way the hill was falling in the lot. The grades are just way too steep. This is probably the more interesting one, is the floor plans. As you can see, this is the garage on the front side, and then we have the basement in the back. The mudroom climbing up the stairs. This is a fairly long set of stairs. That's why we have a provision for an elevator, because the basement would be, there's just the pure number of steps are pretty significant. So we have had a basement, pretty high basement, to accommodate for the slope of the hill there. This is the main floor. So you can see here that basically the ceiling of the garage is primarily covered patio and uncovered patio. This is really all the garage square footage here. And then towards the back is where the main house is. Pretty decent size home. We believe that this would be a very nice looking home, and would give us the room that we would want, and have some happy memories here. So we have a living room, dining room, kitchen, study, and a guest room on the main floor. And then if we flip to the bedroom floor, we have the master bedroom on the main floor. We have the master bedroom on the main floor. plus 2 additional kids bedroom and 1 spare bedroom on the second floor. Lookbook. So since this house is really not built yet, we wanted to give you the most realistic look and feel for this proposed house. So as a consumer, as a homeowner, I know as an architect, as a professional, you guys would be able to envision just based on a cut sheet, but I wanted to give you the actual feel of the house that we are going for. And in the end, we do have the specified, the cut sheet samples and all those called out. But these are the types of inspirational pictures that we are really going for. You can see the white hardy plank, the stone. This is actually a home. This was the starting point of our inspirations, and this is a home that was actually built in the last year, maybe 2 years in Ruxton. And it's a beautiful home, modern farmhouse. That's really the style that we are looking for as well. So this is one where we are using the white hardy siding, the black roof, the black windows, a very modern farmhouse look and feel. And let's go to the next slide, and I'll start calling out more of the specific features that we're talking about. So here, the stonework that we have called out in our plans is this would be the look of the stone, the final finished stone in the bottom. We have called out the types of lights. These are basically the exact form of lights for this modern farmhouse. We called out the wall sconces on all the exterior doors. That would be the type of wall sconces that we have called out. This is again from these homes that we have put here. One item is that we have an interplay between vertical board and batten hardy siding and horizontal lap siding, hardy siding, both in Arctic white. So I wanted to make sure that we are able to show that same look and feel in this picture as well, where we have some vertical siding going on, and then right next to it is it's kind of being complemented by some horizontal siding as well. Next slide. This is one of my favorite ones. This one has a little bit more detail, more clarity to the picture. This one calls out the same type of roof that we have called out for, the standing seam metal roof that we have called out for all the accent pieces on the left. And this one has all the casement type windows that we have called out for, including some of the transom style windows on the top floor that we have called out for as well in our dining room and things of that nature. So
excuse me, Mr. Shard, with these inspirational photos, since they seem to be getting a little repetitive, can we just go on to the actual finishes you're planning to use?
Absolutely.
Just in the interest of time.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, we can skip this one. Okay, there we go. So these are the actual finishes. We have called out the again modern farmhouse style white garage doors. This is the stonework that we have called out for. It's a tight stack stone veneer. All these vertical sidings that you see are all board and batten hardy sidings. The windows are black casement windows. The French doors are again black French doors with full panel glass. We have called out the brass cones on the top to kind of show what that exterior lighting would look like. And all of these standing metal roof that you see on the picture, these are all basically going to be standing seam metal roofing. The roof, the main roof of the house, we are going to explore using solar, but I know given the terrain, solar may or may not be possible, and we won't know about it till we have been able to do a actual study on the efficacy of solar in the area of the solar on that particular house. So that's why we have called out for either it will be a solar black fiberglass roof if we can if that makes sense from a solar efficiency standpoint. If not, then it'll be the GAF architectural single charcoal black roof. We have also called out the cable rails that we have seen on the front and on the east side. So that's the black fence posts and the cable rail that goes along on the front and on the east side of the house, along the stairs and stuff like that. Next slide, please. On the east side, kind of continuing the same theme, the roofing is same thing. On this one, we have the lap siding, the hardy lap siding in Arctic white. We have called out the casement windows. We have the pivot door right there that we see here. Again, the same cable railing is continuing on the east side as well. And all of these vertical segments that you see are again called out with the same board and batten hardy siding. We also have some single patio door entrances. So we have the double doors, French doors, that is called out as again in black with full panel glass. And the single doors are called out with 3/4 panel glass, because I think that single doors look better with 3/4 panel rather than the full panel glass. We can move on.
It looks like this is just more a continuation of the same materials on this side of the building.
Exactly, it is.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have to go over it again.
Okay. So regarding the committee meeting, I actually met at the time that this presentation was submitted. These calls were initiated, but subsequently we actually have met with the DRP. Sorry, not the DRP, but the Ruxton Riderwood Association, Homeowners Association, as well as with the Ridge School Association as well. And I believe there will be some members on the call from both of them. And the feedback that we received was very positive. The feedback we received was that, just making sure that we have the arborist present, just like it was called out in the original development plan, which we completely intend to do anyways. So there was no red flags that were raised by either of the committees. So we feel very good about that. We got some really good feedback from both meetings that we have already incorporated into our plan process.
Okay. Thank you. I think we can go on to the panel portion of the meeting.
Thank you.
Since this is, and thank you. Thank you for the thoroughness of the submitted material and your presentation tonight. Since this is a residential project, our residential reviewer, Fran Anderson, will go first.
John, this is Emerald. We have a member from the community who will want to comment on the project.
Okay, who is that?
Give me a moment.
I have in the chat, it's Will Andrews. He's the treasurer of the Ridge at Ruxton HOA. And he did write a message in the chat. I don't know if he wishes to speak, or I can read his message in the chat.
I unmute Mr. Andrews.
Oh, hi there. Thank you for taking a call, Sharad. Thank you. Your presentation was exactly as we remember speaking to you last week. I just simply wanted to remind the panel that as part of the Ridge at Ruxton HOA, the final architectural approval is required from the Ridge at Ruxton Architectural Committee per the covenants that we have. At this stage, we don't have any issues with the architectural design, but the site management, given the grading of the property and related to water management as well, is kind of of primary importance to us. And we're also interested in some of the requirements for the protection and maintenance of trees inside the forest conservation area, which are to the south and the east of the property. That's really what we're kind of interested, because to be honest, the forest conservation area is something that we're a little unsure as to what the requirements might be if a tree needed to be removed from that area.
So who owns the forest conservation area?
The HOA does, per the development plan, the approved development plan from 2005. It's an HOA and HOA maintenance and forest conservation easement area.
Right.
Does this particular property, will this property be part of the HOA?
Yes.
No, this is a buildable lot.
Okay, then the HOA issue is not relevant to this particular owner. In terms of the forest
Maintenance of the
conservation.
forest conservation is not this property owner's responsibility.
Okay,
It is
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer, for clarifying that.
Yes.
Okay. With that, let's move on to Fran Anderson.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, and I agree. Thanks for the very thorough presentation. I'm going to sort of give you some of the context of what my comments are about, and some of the ones we've sort of already touched on. You know, if you look at your photo array or your neighboring properties, I think it was that you had shown a lot of the Ridge, Ruxton, or the Ridge properties and the commercial property. That's all fine, but to be perfectly honest with you, when I look at this property, the properties that provide context for it are those along Bologna Avenue, not those behind you, because if you stand on Bologna and look at your house, you can't see the homes up on Ridge on the hill. But as you drive Bologna, you see the other homes. And to be perfectly fair, the other homes on Bologna look nothing like the array that you have here, and they're quite a bit smaller. They tend to be much more secluded and covered, and harder to see, and not have the 3 floors out of the ground, basically, because you have your garage and then you have 2 on top. Most of those houses tend to be either single story with an exposed garage potentially, or 2-story where the garage is not visible. So if you were to Google map and take a ride down below or whatever you want to do, to me, that's the context in which you need to sort of look at your house in, not the context of the Ridge property, because you just can't even see that from Bologna Road. So my comments are all basically about sort of in that context, not in the context of the other properties. And I would encourage the other members of the panel to sort of think about it the same way. The big thing is, I have questions about is I don't really understand the area that we discussed a minute ago where an arborist would be present, because what I want to see happen is as much of that retaining wall that you have in the front, which is very large at a couple spots. It's upwards of 11 feet in the middle of the retaining wall, right? And as much of your garage to become to disappear essentially as much as possible, right? Because it is somewhat abrupt to have an 11-foot retaining wall. But I don't know the area where your property line stops to Bologna Avenue. Is that the area that is controlled by the HOA? Because you're talking about having an arborist there to clear it, but based on this, I don't think you have a right to clear any of it outside of your property line.
Sean, go to the cross section. It's a little bit more clear. And by the way, the HOA is the one that required the arborist. It was not us. So that was required by the HOA. So
which is fine.
To zoom in. So believe me, if you think we shouldn't have the arborist there, I'm sure Sherrod will have a problem.
That's not what I was saying. I'm saying I don't know how you have a right to take away any of it there that's outside of your property. Why that note applies at all?
Completely agree, 100%. And we
Can I interrupt for a second? This is Jennifer from the planning department. The approved development plan, Fran, the property line out to Bologna Avenue is county right of way. So they cannot.
Okay.
County right of way.
Right, zoom in on the lower retaining wall if you can. And unfortunately, the house design and the lot and the retaining wall is a if it's a terrible word to use, but it's a casualty of the grade.
Sure.
So unfortunately, Mrs. Mascunas from SiteRight wasn't able to make this meeting, and she could speak a little better than I can. But it is a 9-foot retaining wall, not an 11-foot retaining wall.
Well, no. If you look at the site plan, the bottom of the wall and the top of the wall, go to the site plan. Bottom wall was like 397, and top was.
Right, it's an average. It's an average, but it also goes to 3 foot too.
I fully understand, but where it is in the middle, if you look at your top wall, bottom of the wall, it's 11.
So you take. Right. So you take the average. Sure.
And then it goes. So 2 questions. One, did you consider doing a stepped, instead of one wall, doing a terraced or stepped 2-wall approach?
There's 3 walls.
No, in the front.
In the front.
The front wall, which is 11 feet tall with 2 walls.
We just
It's not 11 feet tall. I'm sorry that you keep saying that because that's just completely untrue.
Okay, well then
It's
show me
11
the
foot
drawing.
in-
Pull the drawing up and show the top and bottom of the wall.
It's 11 foot in some areas, but it's 3 foot in some areas also.
I understand that. It goes down to on either side. In the middle, which I keep saying, it's 11 feet tall.
Okay, but on the end, it's 3 feet tall.
Okay, you can keep arguing with me, but I'm concerned about the 11-foot wall in the middle of the site. And if you want me to make this difficult, I'll make it as difficult as I possibly can. Okay?
No, actually, let me
11
interject.
feet in the middle of the wall, correct? Did you consider 2 walls instead of 1? It's a
No,
simple
Bernadette,
question.
excuse me.
Okay.
Mrs. Mascunas did not consider that. No.
Okay. So
And the
my
last-
concern is that I don't know what's being removed from the area that is in front of your house to the road. Okay. I love it to understand
to
that
the
nothing's
cross-section,
being
Gerard.
removed because it doesn't show anything. So
Let-
my concern was the understory hiding the wall and the landscape plan not really doing an effective job of hiding the wall. But if you're telling me that the plantings that are currently there are not being removed, then
That's
that
correct.
would hide the wall.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. So in fact, what I was going to say, Fran, is this note is kind of hard to see because of the scale, but this note actually calls that any vegetation that we would, in fact, the LOD says that it will follow the property line, kind of very close to what the retaining wall is shown on the site plan. So we are not planning on touching anything beyond that anyways. On top of that, we also called saying that the arborist would be present even for the area that we are removing in the lot. We want to make sure that the arborist is present so that we don't impact anything else outside of it, because these root systems could be all intertwined and whatnot. So that's the reason why that arborist expertise was called out, to make sure that whatever is left behind is left in a healthy condition.
Understood. And I think that's the right thing to do. The problem is the call out on the drawing, which I can see clearly, right? Look at the arrows. The arrows point to arrows outside of your property line. And if so it implies that you would be clearing at those areas of vegetation.
It
You're
actually,
not, and I understand that now, but the drawing shows that you were. And that's all I was trying to get to, is that you cannot, because you can see the call out and the arrow.
so actually, Fran, if I have the source document, it says existing wooded area to remain. The tree, it says
Tree
existing
pruning
area.
and removal shall be at the direction of a certified arborist. So it implies that there will be tree removal and pruning, correct?
No. We were not implying that at all. We were just saying
It
that.
says that. And that's where the confusion comes from, right?
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah, we can certainly clarify that. We are not planning on removing anything beyond we cannot. That's just
That's
not.
great, and I'm glad of that. But that's what the clarification that I needed, because I was concerned that we were going to see too much of the wall.
Oh, no,
and
no,
we're
no,
gonna
no,
have
we will
to
not.
take areas out. The note
Absolutely not.
is confusing. So,
Understood.
all right.
Yeah,
So
we can get that noted.
moving forward then, under the auspices that that is going to stay, my concerns about the exposure to the wall are much less than they were. If you can just go then to the architectural front elevation, I only have a couple of comments. So one question I have about this front elevation, on the, let's see, right-hand side, as you look at the elevation, you have hardy plank on the second level, or what is your first living level, right? Yeah, right where your cursor is, right there. It's really busy. You got the board and batten to the right, the board and batten above it. You got the hardy plank going across. Is the intention is that you're carrying it across from the left-hand side? Is that the idea, that it continues through that area?
So actually, this because we are looking at this in a 2D view and not a 3D view, it's
Yeah, that's my
looking at it
call.
busy. The thing is that the wall. This is a small. The area under that awning is a covered patio. So
Right.
so this will be broken up because this will be 13 feet forward behind that wall that you're seeing there. So right now in a flat view, it is shown as it has all merged together. But in a 3D view, that stone wall will be 13 feet in the front. Hence, that would be a lot more aesthetically pleasing. I did this personally using my son's 3D modeling, basic 3D modeling capability. and we felt that this looked really good in an actual 3D view.
And the area that's under the patio that's covered, what's the material on the face of the house at the doors and the windows there?
That is hardy plank as well.
Like the whole way across. Okay,
Whole
that makes sense.
And it's the big door there.
Right, that makes sense. Now it makes sense to me because it was very busy there and it kind of didn't really fit.
Right.
So my main concern is I like what you did, trying to, I know you have a lot of hill behind you to sort of disguise the mass of the house. But again, going back to the context of what else is on Bologna, my main concern is around this front pediment, okay? If you go to a side elevation or section, okay, you do it right, perfect, just like that. You do a nice job stepping the house back after the garage. That makes a lot of sense, right? And then the majority of the top floor does step back, but you've brought this one section where this pediment is out forward. And as I look at your floor plans, you've got a covered patio, and on the top level, it looks like a large open space, right? It's a loft, right? That's what you have. I mean, from my perspective, and I'd be interested in other panel members to talk about this if they care to, if the house continued to step back and that pediment and that elevation or that room on the top floor also stepped back a little bit, more in line with where the rest of the floor is, not all the way back, because I know you have an elevator that's coming up there and everything just across from there. That would, to me, soften the house and it would not protrude as much and be as much of a mass as if you're standing on Bologna, be more akin to some of the other houses that are on the street.
So, couple of things.
That's the comment.
Right. So if you actually flip back to the main one, please. We initially, way back when we first started this, we had originally thought about making that into a balcony as well. But then it really looked as if it was kind of like a flat piece of paper, more than an actual dimension. There was, because you can see this house is a very flat house from all the other sides. There was just no other dimension in the house. We actually intentionally, you can see in the floor plan, it's not like we have a bedroom there or anything else like that.
Right.
In order to give that dimension, this view to me as a homeowner looks a lot better, because this is the only dimension. This is the only face of the house that has some dimension. All other faces of the house are rather flat. So we were actually concerned that this would look more like a square box and not like a pretty home.
Right. And I appreciate the articulation of the elevation. And I think that you could potentially pull that back and still keep it as a feature. But you got to realize what I keep saying is I am looking at this in the context of the neighborhood and the other homes along below it. Okay, not just individually as a house. And I appreciate what you're saying as a homeowner, what you're looking for. I just think if you just flip to the third floor plan real quick, and I'll wrap this up because I know we're running behind. When I see that loft and I see the line of the loft, right? I mean, I feel like you could pull that back and bring it back and still not lose that articulation of the house, not all the way back to the rest of the wall of the third floor, because I appreciate you also have the elevator and the balconies, but just give it a little less of a sort of protrusion out towards the street. That's just a comment. Other folks in the panel may feel differently. They can speak to that. But that was my only other concern. I'm finished. John?
The flip side of that.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Shrug. It's
Sure.
at this point, we're going to move on to the rest of the panel. The comment's been made. There'll be more when a final motion is made. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Julie Sauce.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for sharing this project with us. I echo some of the same concerns about the retaining wall height, and also as a landscape architect, I'm a little concerned about the plant material on the back wall in between. I like that you kept the trees to the edge, but with the height of that and the tiebacks, I think you're going to need to consult the retaining wall manufacturer to make sure that you can plant some of those shrubs back there.
Right.
They're definitely needed for screening, but that was my major concern with the design. Plant materials great everywhere else. Just nervous about what's on top of the wall.
Right. So I think that once the walls are engineered, then we would have a little bit better idea. Once we have the approval, then we can actually get to the geotechnical side of the wall, and then we might have to adjust the plant material on the top, as you suggested.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Raj?
I'm good. I don't have any further comment. Just one thing to make sure that it's in compliance with homeowner association.
It is.
Okay. So I'm going to go down my comments that I made to myself prior to the presentation. So I picked up the same comment that Fran had regarding the arborist note. I still have some concern about the retaining wall. I'm glad to hear that the material in the foreground, the plant material between the property line and the road, or essentially from your limit of disturbance to the extent possible to the property line, and then from the property line to the road will be undisturbed. This is a big house for this site. As Fran indicated, it's got more mass than the adjacent properties. That said, I know that some of those properties probably date back to the 70s. The material on the retaining wall, that's going to be a segmented retaining wall.
It'll be a dry block stacked retaining wall.
So, but it'll have a finished material. I think you had a picture of it.
Yes.
In
And
your
that finished material picture that you see on that is actually from the existing wall that is on the same site. So we want to maintain that same. We don't want like a patchwork of stuff. We want to maintain that same harmony with the other walls that are on the same location.
So when you say the other wall on the site, that's the wall that separates your property from the ones up the top of the hill.
That is correct.
And I do share some of the concerns that Fran has about the mass of the house at the front. And I think there are some options to do, even if it's whether you step that loft back a little bit or you maybe use a truncated hip that would lower the mass of the gable. The visibility from the street, you are back fairly far, but you are up higher. So that really will, create a fairly large mass.
John, could I ask a question on that?
Who is that?
Greg Little.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Sure. So the front sticks out from the balcony 6 feet. So if we slide it back 6 feet from a 2D standpoint, is that the difference there? I mean, because that's all we have if we're going to maintain the balconies.
And actually, also we have the elevators there, so we don't want to move it.
That doesn't interfere with the balcony because that's 8 feet to the balcony, but it's 6 feet. I'm sorry, 8 feet to the elevator and 6 feet to the balcony. So if we slide it 6 feet back, again from a 2D standpoint, when I look at the front elevation, it slides back 6 feet. And then you mentioned a hip.
Well, or you do
a hip roof on this style house?
Not a hip. You do a gable, but a hip gable where you still have the gable, but then you truncate it to lower the mass a little bit. And I realize that is out of character with the rest of the house. I'm just
that would look pretty on the exterior of the house.
I'm sorry.
I think that if we cut the house, like cut the roof like that on the main front, that would be very much out of character with everything else that's going on.
I mean, I'd have to go back and look at some of those other houses to see if there's a hip on the gables on the front, but we'll get past that. I mean, I guess let's focus on when you want that front slid back. I have 6 feet to work with before we compromise a balcony. So if I'm sliding the loft back 6 feet, is that in a 2D presence from Bologna? Is that what we're looking for here?
But actually, Greg, I don't believe that just that there's only that's the reason why we have those balconies to kind of taper the house back. Just that one area, I believe is adds to the dimension of the house. Moving it back, I did that on my son's 3D model, and it did not look. If you remember, that's how we had started, but it did not look good at all.
No, Sharad, I completely agree with you. Excuse me. I'm on your side here. What I'm asking is because based on the comment that we received is that center section was out too far. So is 6 feet, I guess I'm asking, is 6 feet sliding it back enough that it would not be as imposing as what it may seem, I guess is the proper terminology.
And that's a great question. I mean, it's if there was a 3-dimensional view in this presentation, we probably would have a better idea of that. It's a big facade, but you are fairly far back from the road. What's the distance from the road? 100 feet.
I'd have to look at Mrs. McCuna's site plan again. I'm sorry.
I'm pulling that up right now.
I think you're 60 feet setback on your
There you go.
and from it's about 60 feet to the garage, face of the garage from your property line, I assume.
Well, that's the landscape plan. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, it's 60 feet to the property line, but that's not to the road.
That's what I said, the property line.
Yeah, so we have at least 100, and then the garage is about 30 feet out. So that facade, we are talking at least 125, 130 feet.
And to answer your question, I think, Greg, where you were going, at that distance, is that 6 feet really going to make that big of a visual difference from the road? And my feeling, probably not. Whether it's where you've got it shown or back 6 feet, I don't think I don't think the difference is going to be that significant.
Okay.
So how the person's going to view it.
And John, I raised that point as a point of conversation here to get to this conclusion, right? To everybody's opinion as to will it have an impact. So if we as a panel think it's not going to have an impact, I'm okay with that. I think it's a reasonable conversation, and I don't think that there's any, point in chasing it if it's not going to have an impact.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Fran. With that, the panel part of the discussion is over. Fran, as a residential project, would you like to make a motion?
I guess, John, my only hesitation I could make a motion is sort of memorializing this concept that the area between Bologna Road and the property line is not going to be, pruned or tree removal happening there. And it seemed like there was a meeting of the minds with the homeowner as well.
Right.
My concern was the note on the drawing indicated it might be. So I don't know if that's something we can memorialize in a motion or not.
Well, I think we just note in the motion that the area of the right-of-way, the area within the right-of-way will not be disturbed by this project.
Right.
Okay. So I would move that the project be approved and that with the note or the condition that the area in the right-of-way not be disturbed in the development project.
Well, I'm sorry, guys, with the exception of the driveway entrance.
Sorry, it's a good clarification. You have to do that, right?
Thank you, Greg. No way to get in and out of the property.
With the exception of, so the motion is that the project be approved, that the area within the right-of-way not be disturbed, except for the driveway and entrance area as shown on the drawing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a second from the board? Roger, Jolie?
This is Julie. I second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Project is approved with the comments made. Thank you all very much for your presentation tonight.
Thank you very much.
Everybody have a good evening.
Thanks a lot for your feedback. Appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Have a
night.
good
With
night.
that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Emery? Oh, he already, are you still on here, Emery?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you guys think you captured that? I don't, was it a conditional approval?
Yes, condition approval. I think they just need to change the words on the landscape plan to make.
All right, so
yeah.
when we write up the minutes and we write up the conditional, approved condition upon the note being changed,
Mhm.
is that what we're gonna say? And then if you could just follow up with Mr. Sharma to make sure he understands that that needs to be done before he gets a final approval,
Okay.
okay?